Okay, boys and girls, this is our review for Chapter 2. So let's look at a couple of these problems here. First of all, we have write a number for each one. So it's a loss of 50 yards. So if it's a loss, it's a negative. So it's, 52 yards. So it's, let me just get a bigger marker. It's a loss, which is a negative 52, and then you need a label, so it's yards. Okay. Next one is a deposit of $192. So if you remember in class, when you deposit money into a bank account, you are putting money into your bank account. So for that one, that's going to be $192. So $192 is what you're going to do. And we're assuming it's positive if there's no negative sign. A withdrawal of $200 million. So if you withdraw money, that means you take money out of your account. So it's a negative $sign, and then we want 200 million. So 200 million looks like that. So we're going to have 8 zeros for 200 million. Next one, draw a horizontal line. Let me just move this up. Number line from -5 to 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a number line. Make sure you put your arrows at the end. And we start with -5. And you're going to go all the way up. -2, -1. Sorry, I just put -0 by accident. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you need a dot each one. So remember, to the left of 0 is negatives, to the right of 0 is going to be positives. And then when you do a vertical number line, it's going to be negatives are going to be at the bottom, positives are going to be at the top. It's like climbing a mountain. So you want to increase your numbers going up. So let me just make my vertical number line here. So the vertical number line represents the opposites. So opposite of 100 is -100, and the opposite of 110 is -110. So we're going to start with down at the bottom, and the bottom is going to be the smallest number. So smallest number is -110. So I'll do -110, -109, -108, -107. I know it's a little sloppy. It's hard to write on this. -106. -105, -104, -103. I might not make it. -102, -101, and then -100. Sorry, it's a little sloppy. But you're going to have to then dot each one because they're all included in the data set. So the main thing that you need to know is the -110 is going to be at the bottom, and the reason why it's at the bottom is because it's the smallest of the numbers. Okay, next we're going to complete each inequality. So if you look at 10 through 15 here, the inequalities are all based on absolute value. So we're looking at absolute value here. So we have -18 and -24, the absolute value of each. So remember, absolute value means how far you're away from 0. So -18, we're 18 away. For -24, we're 24 away. So it's 18 or 24, so 24 is going to be bigger. So number 11, it's 30 away and 40 away, so 40 is bigger. 12, it's 100 away and 200 away, so 200 is going to be greater. Okay, so we have 280 and 190, so 280 is obviously going to be greater. We have 650. And then you have 480, and again, that's how far they're away from 0, so it's going to be 650 is bigger. Now we have 570, and then 400 and 570 is going to be bigger. Okay, now 20 through 25 is just regular integers, so we have -7 and -5. So which one's bigger? So -7 or -5? -5 is going to be bigger because when you're dealing with two negatives, it's the one that's closer to 0 is the bigger one. So -5 is bigger. So -2, -1, -1 is going to be bigger because it's closer to 0. When we deal with -4 and we're going to 0 is going to be bigger. Then we have 3 and negative 6. So we look at these, and whenever you have a negative and a positive, the positive is going to be bigger. So we have negative 3, negative 1. Negative 1 is bigger because that's closer to 0. Then we have negative 6 and 1. 1's a positive, so 1's going to be bigger. Okay, now write an inequality for each of the following statements. So we have an elevation of negative 1,600 meters is greater than an elevation of negative 2,100 meters. So negative 1,600 meters, m's for meters, is going to be greater than an elevation of negative 2,100 m for meters. Okay, so 54 is a little tricky. It says a loss of 20 yards is less than a loss of 30 yards. So if it's in this is basically like football. So if you have the line of scrimmage right here and you go back 20 yards, that's a loss, like a sack. And then if you go back 30 yards, 30's further back. So 30's actually, even though we're dealing with negatives, negative 30 is not bigger than negative 20. Negative 20 is bigger. But in the statement, it says negative 20 is less. So it's the loss that's less, not that it's a negative. So you could write this one of two ways. We could write it like this. Negative 20 is going to be, you could write greater than negative 30. Or you could write 20 is going to be less than 30, because the 20 yards that you're going behind is less than 30. So either really I would accept. Either one's correct. Okay, so I gave you an example at the top up here, and then here's our work. I'm not going to go over example. You guys could look at that. But it says this. Which city had the highest temperature? So you look at each one, and you find the biggest number. And this one, if you look at, you have a negative, and then you have two positives. So the 12 is going to be higher. So it's Houston's the biggest, or highest, I'm sorry. Which city had a temperature of 3 degrees below 0, so negative 3? And it says Minnesota, and Minnesota is not a city, but we're going to write Minnesota anyway. Which city had a temperature greater than New York's? So if you look at New York's 3, so it has to be Houston. And what's the difference in temperature between Chicago and Houston? So Chicago is negative 8. Houston is 12. So what we're doing is, you could do this a couple of ways. So it is, what is the difference between them? So if you would take the absolute value of each and add them up, you're going to get 8 plus 12, and 8 plus 12 is going to equal 20. You could do it like that, or you could just say like this, negative 8, negative 8, to get to 0, we go 8, and then to get to 12, to 0, we add 12, so 8 plus 12 is going to be 20. You can do it like that also. Or also what we did before, if you remember in class. Oops, let me just move this. So we have negative 8 and 12. So we could do 12 minus a negative 8. And then remember, you're going to change the minus to a plus and change the sign, a negative sign, to the plus, to the opposite. So once you change this sign right here, you have to change this one, so it makes it the opposite. So when you have 12 minus a negative 8, there's really no such thing as minus, because you changed it to plus, and then you have to change that sign. So it would be 20. So that answer is 20 also. Okay, so our last page is this. It's a bank account. So if you look at, we have a deposit, which is add, withdrawal is subtract, and balance is equal. So when we look at the account, there's actually a mistake here. If you remember from class, we talked about in March he took out 150 and he only had 120 left. So this should be a negative $30. And then over here he added 10, so it's going to be a negative $20. And I'm not going to be able to fit the dollar sign, but you know, it's negative $20. So in A, which months was he overdrawn? That means he had a negative balance. So that would be March, And April, because he has a negative balance, is overdrawn. That means he doesn't have enough money. Next one, in which months do you have a positive balance? So we just look at the two positive numbers, and that's going to be January and February. And if Brand deposited $50 in May, what was the May balance? So if he had, let me just move this up. So if he had, in April he had negative 20, and he deposited, means you add $50. So what you're going to do is, when you add this up, you can start at negative 20 and say to yourself, okay, I gotta go from negative 20, I'm gonna add 50. So negative 20, let me just move this up. So if I have negative 20, to get to 0, I add 20. Now I'm going to take 20 away from the 50 because I'm adding 50 to negative 20, but I just added 20 to it, so I got to 0. So now I'm going to add what's left, and that's 30. So 30 plus 0 is going to be $30. So again, I start at negative 20. I want to add 50. So what I do is I go from negative 20 to 0. So how did I get there? I went 20. So what's left then to go? Well, I subtract 20 from 50, and I would get 30. So the answer is going to be 30.